Oh, freeze. You laugh, baby. I love it.
Yo, yo, yo. I say hola, 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 hola. It's popping, yo. Happy Saturday, you dig? Coolest in the game, coolest in the world, coolest for your mother, coolest for your girl. You feel me? We about to go live and do our thug thizzle once more. You dig? Yep, 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 yep. Hi, hola.
Hi.
Yeah, what's
Should I be
poppin'?
the other way?
Yeah, yeah, you gotta turn the other way. That's the rule in Live with Freeze. You gotta turn the other way. We the other
Oh,
way. Real quick shout out, Plain Jane in the building. What's up, Jane? What's up, baby? But this is like one of my first interviews where I brought notes with me because I want to make sure I ask the quality questions, and sometimes when you do it off the fly, you fly a little crooked, you dig? So,
right.
well, first of all,
So,
first of all, like how are you doing this epidemic pandemic that they call it?
I am doing well. I am,
Yeah.
just trying to stay grounded and all that good stuff. It's a lot.
Yeah, holding down the youngins though.
Yeah, holding it down.
I feel you. I feel you.
You.
Man, I'm cool. I'm real cool. I'm like, I don't know. I probably like took this time to like really be a lot more grateful and just appreciative of the blessings I have, and
Yeah.
I'm just really able to kind of just be more reflective and be a lot more creative and be able to strengthen a lot of my plans because we all have plans for stuff we want to do in the coming months and all that, and
Of course.
with the way just the ecosystem is, it'll slow down our civilization. So
The entire civilization.
you feel me? So nah, it's been beautiful, and I ain't gonna lie, not having to punch in nowhere kind of feel good. I ain't gonna lie, like I just been getting my free government money and letting it just stack so I can feel like a
Yeah.
drug dealer or something.
Okay, drug dealer.
You did, but so this usually since October I've done Rise with Freeze, and now since we're in the situation we're in this Live with Freeze, you feel me? So
Yeah.
um
I'm
you
just
know
getting my right.
yeah, you good, you good.
Okay.
So basically we just talk our talk, I ask questions and stuff. So I definitely noticed you've been like really, really present with your philanthropy during this time, helping raise money for artists and
Yeah.
helping push a lot of initiatives. And if you could you just kind of talk about the start of it and why it's important to you?
Yeah, for sure. So like I've always wanted to kind of like be a philanthropist or like be someone who's investing in the, contributing to events and things like that. But as far as like what I started Alanah's COVID-19 Emergency Fund for Artists and Freelancers on March 13th. And I just kind of woke up with this idea or this notion that I knew a lot of my peers were kind of suffering or, losing work, losing
Yeah.
contracts, getting furloughed and things like that.
Hmm.
And I knew that, even though like I was only doing like micro grants, that even just a little bit or like artists knowing that you're there for them at a time like this is super important.
Yeah.
And a lot of like big institutions don't really act this fast or and then there's a lot of Black artists who don't necessarily know how to apply for grants.
Yeah.
um, so like it's important that we have like low barrier options. So
Mm. The epidemic, did it kind of affect your creative endeavors as well, some of your ventures as well personally?
yeah, so on any given day, like I'm usually from about like 2015, I've been involved pretty heavily in like the arts sector here in Baltimore, and
Yeah.
that was like as an independent artist, as a performance artist, someone who was doing a lot of spoken word poetry performances.
Yeah.
I had started my open mic back then, and through that, I was afforded a lot of opportunities and meeting folks, and just kind of like building my social network and my social capital.
Hmm.
And I was able to kind of leverage some of my skills as like a marketing professional. So
Yeah.
I'm really good at like social media and content creation.
Absolutely.
So I was doing a lot of that work and still am doing a lot of that work with organizations like Impact Hub Baltimore, which is
Hmm.
located on 4th Avenue, as well as Motor House, for which my contract did end in March.
Yeah.
But that was like kind of coincidence. It wasn't necessarily due to COVID, but it
Yeah.
was due to a lack of funding in the arts. So, but a lot of my events and things that I had coming up at the time that they had closed maybe schools, I had canceled about, and it's been about 50 days since then. I canceled about 8 weeks worth of events. And that definitely took about $4,000 out of my pocket. But so it wasn't easy, but it's necessary. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
what you said, being like kind of entering like in the arts sector and networking and stuff, did that strengthen your idea of marketing? Because probably since I know you've always had your own approach. I don't even want to call it unique. You had your own approach and your own ideals, and
Yeah.
that kind of shines out because it showed that you're not programmed.
I am programmed to an extent. You know what I mean? Like there's parts of me that I know come from, mainstream media and like knowing some of the trends and things like that. A lot of times, people like extremes. A lot of the platforms that we use, they operate on extremes. It's kind of like when you get on YouTube and you start off watching like a video of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star being sang by Clifford the Big Red Dog, and then by 3 a.m. you're watching conspiracy videos, with some guy, I don't know, you know what I'm saying? It operates on
Twilight shit,
a lot of this, the skill that I leverage is just using those extremes. People want to hear things that people usually wouldn't want to hear, or like, so that's kind of the skill that I use, like, and just knowing storytelling. You know what I mean? In the Black community, we storytell. You'd be like, bet. Listen to me real quick.
All right, so boom.
Boom, like, and that's not necessarily a skill that people in other communities have. So that's like a skill that I think Black creatives can leverage over, especially if you're a writer. If you come from that background, like I'm a writer, I'm a performer, so like I know how to tell a story from beginning to end.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Dope. So could you talk about some of your success stories? I know you said like that micro grants and they're not as big as other companies, but every story, it's a success story. Can you talk about somebody that you've helped, that you kind of helped change their situation?
Yeah, let me think. Oh my.
So you're ready, you feel me?
It's interesting because like I don't often like take credit per se in like the stories of others. I know I've had like some, I've crossed paths with a lot of people, and I've definitely like bolstered a lot of different people, I think, in the city and even beyond the city. But I think one great story of someone who I've been able to help throughout my career would be, I met this young woman, her name is Umbar, and Umbar, she lives in Oakland right now. But basically I curate a series of events at Impact Hub called Skillshares. And those are currently both virtual, of course, because, they would typically be in the Impact Hub space on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 12 to 1. The times are the same, but one day Umbar comes in, she's, walks into Impact Hub and was just coming for the Skillshare itself and, asked me about being able to present one for herself. And at the time that I met her, she was pretty early in her career. This was maybe about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. And we were kind of teasing out the topic, and then she was afforded the opportunity to become a part of the work trade team at Impact Hub Baltimore. So they do like volunteer work basically in order to get membership at Impact Hub, which is the same thing I did back in 2016.
Yeah.
And was hired on after that. But through working through that program, like she was able to kind of like build up again, like her social capital and her social network. So she was starting out in Baltimore. Now she works at Impact Hub Oakland. So she was able to kind of like move to an entirely different city and create a whole new network for herself. So I'm so excited like for the work she's doing, and she's working with one of my good mentors, Michelle Antoinette, or Love the Poet, as a lot of people know her here.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. How it's a lot of people in the house. Shout out to Tori, shout out to cousin Jill. How important is it to have a mentor, or as I like to call them, big homies?
Yeah. Mentorship is extremely important, but I understand that like everybody isn't afforded the opportunity to meet a mentor per se, right? So even if like you're not physically working under the tutelage of somebody, like you could be like looking up YouTube videos and seeing like what are people doing in the industry that you're interested in, so it's not always somebody teaching you one-to-one, but it is important. It was important in my journey to meet someone who says, one, I believe in you. I think you have a really cool way of thinking. And I think these are some of the ways that you would be able to apply that. And that people should pay you for it.
Yeah. The most important thing.
Yeah.
Important thing. So do you only have one mentor who is Love the Poet? Do you have maybe like one or two, or someone that you maybe like look to online?
Yeah, it's funny. Even though I give the advice of looking at people online, I don't often look at other people online because it's just like, yeah, I don't know. It forms like a weird amount of jealousy inside of me, and I don't like that. I don't like that jealousy, that envy when I'm looking at somebody that has something that I don't have yet. Even though it's like, and I just like to be honest about those feelings. A lot of
Absolutely,
people
I
look
respect
at
it.
it and be like, "Oh, like I don't feel like that. I go girl, go now." I don't do that. So anyway, but as far as like other mentors, um, I definitely there. Jamie McDonald. She's a philanthropist. She's someone who was instrumental. She's an older white woman. You know what I'm saying? She's someone who was instrumental in the formation of Giving Tuesday. So Giving Tuesday is like one of the largest philanthropic platforms like ever.
Okay.
Most people know, you know what it is, and like we just actually had a Giving Tuesday this past week. But it's
Okay.
when organizations can kind of come together. If you have like a cause or something you want to raise money for, you can say, hey, we, you know, want to raise $50,000 in the names of arts and culture, and then people can kind of give to that platform. But I met Janie maybe about 3 years ago. She's also one of the founders or was one of the co-chairs of Light City. She is no longer. So I've kind of met her through a lot of like my arts and culture work. And then I was afforded the opportunity to do some marketing work with her for a workshop that she has called The Courageous. And The Courageous basically puts a bunch of like social change makers in one room for a couple of weeks and helps them to hone in on their projects. Not only did I go through that process, but I was able to help her to like market the materials that she used for, you know, teaching that cohort of folks during that time. And that was maybe in like late 2018.
Okay.
But she taught me a lot. And one of the things that came up for me, I think during that time when I was going through that workshop was something that I live by. And it's like two truths can exist at once.
Yeah.
And like the idea that like there are these different parallels. Like Jamie and I, we don't come from the same place. We don't think the same way, but we can come together and work together, and it's like a viable collaboration. And collaboration is like another very important, I think, component to like anyone's success. Is like there's
Yeah.
always people, there's always other people. No one is solely self-made. You know what I'm saying? Like
It sounds good in the introduction, but yeah.
yeah, it sounds great, but like there has to be somebody that you learn from, somebody you look to, something. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So when you said I remember you said earlier about when you look at, if you look at certain people like on YouTube or something like that, and they have the things you don't have, and, you know, it builds up a little bit of, you know, acid reflux, so to speak. What if you don't mind sharing, what are one of the two things that you still aspire to have?
Yeah. I think everyone aspires, I think, and myself included, to have like widespread notoriety.
Yeah.
I think I think like my following is pretty deep. Like I think a lot of people really rock with me, and it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty local, you know, Baltimore, DC, New York, like places like that. But
Mm-hmm.
I would love to like, one thing I'm working on right now is I want to write for like publications, like big publications. Like I've done some articles and things like that for like local places, trying to like build my writing samples up and things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, I do a lot of advice on like love and relationships. I want to write for Cosmo. I want people to look at, you know, what I'm saying and be like, you know what, I really fuck with that. So I think
Yeah.
like having that notoriety and like having those like different little positions and things like that
Mm-hmm.
is something that I look to have.
Yeah. That's dope. That's dope.
Yeah.
I was thinking he was gonna say money too. I thought he was gonna, you know.
I that's actually one thing. I don't do things for the money. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like my why is always a lot different than that. Like of course, like we need money to survive. I'm very blessed to have like closed out this third tax year as like self-employed, and you know, and that's been great. So like I'm
Yeah.
thankful for
Salute.
those things.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And but also it's not just about the money. You know what I'm saying? Like it's about purpose. I want to be able to like make people's lives better, and I love, you know, doing events, and I love talking to people about relationships, and I love, you know, community. So
Definitely, definitely. So, all right. So, one interview I did on the platform just dropped yesterday. Shout out to Third World TV, and the subject we were talking about were support, that everlasting conversation, and I think we were making points that a lot of people, you know, beg for support, but they are not even actually worrying about the product. I think they just want to fit into this notion of like you said, notoriety, and about really instead of honing the product and creating the craft, no, honing that craft and creating a product that's quality and that can impact. Do you feel that a lot? And I don't know if you see these conversations. Do you feel that people who kind of scream out about support or talk about lack of support is really just somewhat of entitlement?
It can be, I've definitely seen that, like that sort of outcry where people are like, oh, nobody supports me, it's me, but my back's against the wall. Like, I feel like that's the type of rhetoric that doesn't really get you anywhere. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you feel like that because you create that narrative for yourself. I have my days where I'm like, nobody rocks with me. Like me, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like, but a lot of people do support me. And when I do have those days, I just have to kind of dampen that and be like, you know what, I'm not going to say that, because there are people who do support you, and that puts those people off. So like, you definitely want to make sure you're not saying, I don't like that. I don't like that saying, like, I don't have support. And there are some people who don't have support necessarily. And, hopefully, but you have to think about it like this, like, okay, if you're making, and I know this is like a meme that like floats around, but if you're making like t-shirts that have like a picture of Black Goku on it, and he's like holding two vibrators, maybe that's not necessarily the product that the people in your audience want. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're on Facebook and all of your Facebook friends are your aunts and uncles, no, like, like, so you kind of have to learn how to pivot and create a product that people actually want, and that people, that's a commodity. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like, yeah.
And one more question about that. Learning your audience. Like, how does a person learn their audience? How does a person say, okay, these are the people I delegate my product to, even if it's 10 people, 80 people, or 1,000 at a time? How do you figure out who your audience is?
Yeah, I feel like I'm a big believer in like organic growth of like audience. And I think one big like piece of advice I could give to anybody is, a lot of people look for, and social media teaches us to look for followers. Followers is a lot different from believers. You want believers. You want an audience of people who believe in the product, who believe in the message, who believe in you. They'll go anywhere. Like Roots Picnic, they're gonna post like, okay, boom, we're gonna do a virtual Roots Picnic. Everybody's going to flock to it because it's like a brand that people believe in. You know what I'm saying? They're not just following it and like giving it like passive likes. We all have like accounts where like we follow it and we just kind of like, we don't really believe in what they're saying, or like everything's kind of scattered. It's all over the place, but you have to make sure you have one unified mission, and that everyone who's working with you has that same mission in mind. It's the same reason you do like job orientations when you start a job. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times it's like brand work, initiative work, and movement building, which is a lot of what Black people do. We don't orient people to what our belief system is. We just kind of be like, oh, you fuck with me, you wanna do business with me, and that's it. And that never ends well.
I've seen it definitely. So I'm gonna switch the gears, because this is my last few set of questions. Mom life. Mother Day is tomorrow. You have two, young beautiful daughters. What obviously they're like part of your biggest motivation, but like as a mom, like, how do you feel you are as a mom?
Yeah, I mean, as a mom, I'm super protective. Like, a lot of people either have never met my kids, they don't know that I have kids, or they've never seen them. So like, even in my own personal brand, like, it'll take you a little bit sometimes on my Instagram to like get to pictures of my kids. It's not lack of loving them. My love for them is something that I show in like a different part of my life, because I learned really quickly, like with like being in the public's eye or like view, people have a lot of judgment about how you are as a mother. They want to know if you're doing Pinterest demos with them during the quarantine, and they want to know this and they want to know that. And I actually wrote a article about what I am doing with my kids, and there is a picture of my kids in the link in my bio that I did. But it was really cool to do that. But as a mother, I'm very careful. But I'm a very cool mom. They go to like my offices a lot with me. And so a lot of the people that I work with know who they are. And I think they're getting to learn a lot about arts and culture.
Yeah.
But I also like, should they choose to not want to be in arts and culture, I ain't pressed. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to like, Joe Jackson. Like
Yeah. But you make sure to instill values based on your experience and kind of where you see the world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. There's a lot of room for allowance, and shout out to Olu Butterfly who just logged in because she's one of my favorite moms that's in arts and culture right now because she has like a whole gang of kids and they're always just kind of like doing their own thing, and I
Yeah.
just love it. But yeah, moms.
Has it been difficult teaching in the world? Because I,
You
you know,
know,
like I say, I don't know if you have show them social media things or they have phones just to access like that. But is it
right.
kind of hard with that balance?
It can be hard. So I'll tell you one thing, like they actually just got tablets when they started distance learning. I was
Okay.
like, I bought them their first tablet, so that was just a couple weeks ago. So
Mhm.
prior to that, they didn't really have readily available access to the internet.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of navigating that. That's a new thing for me. I do co-parent, with the father of my children.
Hmm.
We were married, we're no longer married, but we get along. Shout out to Jamal.
Yeah.
But basically, I asked him what he thought about me getting the tablets. We kind of navigated it that way. So I think it's important to
Good.
have, input on like what you think the kids are absorbing and things like that. But as they get older, like my oldest daughter, her name's Blair, she's 8. And then my youngest daughter, her name's Harper, and she's 6.
Hmm.
And, Blair, she's 8 years old. So she's starting to ask me all these questions. Like I'm like, I think about what I was like when I was 8. I was super cognizant. Like I was a smart kid, and she's a
Yeah.
smart kid, if not smarter than I am right now. And I don't want her to hear me because she's right outside the door. But
Oh my God.
it's been, I think it's an amazing journey to like to get to teach them the world, and I know I want them, more than anything, to have more than I had. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, of
Absolutely.
course, like I'm from the projects, I'm from the Bronx. Like, I didn't have a
Yeah.
lot when I was growing up. I wasn't able to
Mhm.
go outside just running around. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
we live in a really nice area in Baltimore. Like, it's been a uphill. I think even at the time that I met you, I was living in one bedroom in East
Yeah.
Baltimore with
Yeah.
both the girls, myself and my mother, in one room, in one bed. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was a real struggle, and I think, I don't tell that story a lot, and I want to start to tell it more because people see me now and they say, "Oh, Alanah, you had this and you had that," and I see you plugged in and charged up and all of this, but like,
Yeah. It
man,
starts somewhere though. It all starts somewhere.
man, I had to start somewhere.
Yeah. I think actually yeah, I think the night when I had the Strongway radio show, I think I dropped you off that night. You was telling me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, and I appreciate that, just you seeing it through, you know what I'm saying? Like we unfortunately a lot of people kind of like become their struggle. It's unfortunate, and it's not even a personal thing towards them. A lot of times we don't have access to the informational access to the healing of what we're going through. So,
Hmm.
you're a great example. I mean, you're a great example of perseverance. And
Yeah.
and it's dope. Shout out to co-parenting too, because I see a lot of people claiming to be single moms. Like wearing that like it's a assistant manager position. And then you kind of see this spew of like down talking relationships or down talking these experiences, and it's just not as healthy because like what one person did another person isn't guaranteed to do.
Yeah.
So that's good. I think that's all of my questions. Do you have any plans? Like I know we can't really go anywhere, but do you have anything special you do for Mother's Day or any like tradition you do for Mother's Day?
For Mother's Day, we don't typically have like a tradition or anything like that, but I definitely love the yelling. I definitely love, just hanging out with them on any ordinary day. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know, they might have something up their sleeve. I love when they make me stuff.
yeah,
They always paint for me or like make me macaroni covered things, and
mm-hmm.
so those are some of my favorite things, and it's just interesting. I was thinking earlier, like as I get older, it's just like my love for things is just so different than it was a couple of years ago, and like I wake up, I'm like reading a newspaper. So I'm like, am I getting old? Like,
Oh, hey.
and I'm like, this a mess. This a mess.
I ain't mad at that. That sounds like some shit on the wire. I ain't mad at that. And yeah, Alanah, I really appreciate you, locking in with me, God willing, this probably be the best interview you do on your press run. So, but anything you just want to let people know that got coming up or that you want them to pay attention to. I know you say you got the article about that's in your bio right now.
Yeah, definitely. I did an article, like I said, for Technically Baltimore, which is a local publication who focuses mostly on like tech innovation. But I did an article about like what it means to be like a mom and like doing distance learning right now. So that's in my bio. But most importantly, because I could plug myself all day, I posted everything that I'm gonna be at this month on my page. So like you can get off here, click on my page. But more importantly, plug yourself, believe in yourself, like wherever you're at, whatever you're doing. You could be. It doesn't matter what your living is or like what your bank account looks like. You can do it. You can achieve it if you put your mind to it every single day. You do a little bit more every single day. You can do it. It might take you a little bit. People might not believe in you. People are going to tell you you can't do it. And I think even just I'm in the beginning of my journey. This is just the beginning. So I'm excited to see what's to come. Whatever you think is ahead of you, whether it be God or the universe or whatever, just believe in that thing and continue to, thrive and change and make change for yourself in that.
I'm digging. I appreciate you, Alanah.
Thanks, Freeze.
No problem. I'm going to holler at you, okay?
Okay.